Well, believe it or not, this is part 3. We're going to do an abstract background. So welcome back, friends. No, the background is not going to be red. Her bathing suit is red, so we're going to need something a little more contrasty for that. But you're going to watch as I do an abstract representation of sky, water, and the dock she's sitting on. Let's get to it. Okay, so like I said, this is a canvas that was created from a digital file, and then I collaged, last video, I collaged her bathing suit. So I'm going to use this Frisket. If you're not familiar with Frisket, it comes on a roll kind of like contact paper, except this one is frosted, which means you can draw on it, and the glossy stuff, it's hard to draw and paint on it. You might want to just do that so you have, sometimes you need a sketch or something. In this case, we don't really need a sketch. We just need to get that background, the body protected, so I could paint the background and not worry about having to be careful around the edges. So I always start with the corner, I just to get it started. Now I need to go about a few inches down all the way across and just get something that I can put down on the canvas. I'm trying to figure out which way am I going with this. So I'm going to, I'm off camera on this, and I'm going to use my catalyst wedge to smooth down the Frisket as I go. So I'm working a little at a time, smoothing out all the bubbles. I just want to get a good contact here. And once I get this all down, then I'll protect the other side of her body with another sheet because this one wasn't wide enough. And then we'll start to cut all the way around. So I'm showing you this just so you can see my process, but obviously you're probably not going to start with a digital file like this, so you can always, paint parts of your artwork, collage other parts. This is just how my process is, and I'm being very, very careful to go around the edge. And I just have to do that everywhere. It's a little bit tedious, but actually this is a lot easier and will make the background part go quicker. Because if I had to be careful to only paint right up to the edge, it would be really hard for me to get sloppy with the paint and really, put layers and be careful around that edge like that. So this is the best solution. And I pull off the background, the Frisket off the background as I go, a little bit at a time. And you have to have a sharp knife for this. You need to make sure that your blade is nice and sharp. Even though this is very thin, film, it's so much easier when you have a sharp knife. I will say that. So once I have the Frisket cut all the way around, her body and swimsuit is all protected, I'm just going to start laying down some paint. And I'm going to be putting down quite a few layers. And this is going to be the underpainting. So, it dawned on me that when I did the, digital, I probably could have done an underpainting there. I might try that someday. I still would have had to cut the Frisket probably because the top layer would still have to be done, on the canvas, but with paint. I don't know. I think this was a more fun process, but this looks like messy and sloppy and lacking in contrast. But you'll see as we go along, when we put the other layers on top, that it's going to work out great. I'm also a little bit worried, just a little bit, about the paint going underneath the Frisket. I always worry. Almost every time I use Frisket, I worry. And it very rarely happens. I don't think, I'm trying to think if it ever happened. Anyway, it doesn't happen. This Frisket, if you burnish it down well enough, it works really great. It's thin enough, I guess, that the paint doesn't try to get underneath. But it works better than tape, even the painter's tape. So, but I still, rather than pushing the paint towards where the cut mark is, I try to go away from it just because I worry. It would have been a disaster if all that paint had seeped underneath. I would have been for days cleaning up with alcohol or attempting to, and it might not have worked. And I've paid a lot of money to have this canvas printed for me, so I had every reason to worry. But it worked out just fine, you'll see. And right now it just looks messy because, especially since the paint is going over her body, it just looks like a hot mess. It is very satisfying when you finally finish the background and you peel off the Frisket. Oh my goodness, it's such a great feeling, as you will see in this video. So I'm adding just some colors that I want to have peek through the background. That's what this underpainting is all about. And I'm just, making sure that I have a variety. That was quinacridone red that I started with. That was Indian yellow that went over it. Now this is a green, I think it's a yellow green. It's a Nova color. So far all three of these are Nova color. I'm also going to use a Payne's Gray, which is also Nova color. And sorry again that I'm off the top. I guess I'm going to have to get like a wide angle lens or something if I'm going to keep working this big. Because for this part, I do like to have the painting laying flat. Eventually, I put it up on an easel, and for the top painting part. But for this part, I like it laying flat. So I really need to turn this around so that I could get at the other side. Kind of do the same thing on this side. And I'm really loving using the color shaper for this, rather than brushes. So when you're layering, you also have to worry about dry time. So at some point, once I finish this underpainting, I'm going to have to wait for it to completely dry. So I'm probably going to, take a break. For you, it'll just be a second. But, and then I will, start working on the top layers. Now she is sitting at the edge of a pool, so I need sort of a turquoise kind of color, very light, and a blue sky, and maybe like a concrete color that she's sitting on. So that's what I'm thinking about, but right now at this stage, I'm just trying to get some colors underneath, and I also need some deep colors. So as I'm looking at this, it's still looking a little too much of the same like value. I need some real darks in there. So I'm probably going to pull out some Payne's Gray and put that on top of this, and then that will be our kind of middle layer, and then we'll do our top layer. Okay, so here's the Payne's Gray. Kind of looks black, doesn't it? I find that Payne's Gray definitely has a black look to it when you overlay it on these warmer colors, and that's fine, especially on camera. Probably looked dark blue in person, but the lighting here, even though it's supposed to be like daylight and all that, it makes it look black. But just know that this is Payne's Gray. So the thing I like about the color shaper is we get these like darker edges, and we can go really, really thin with it. Kind of dries fast. I just like look at that edge. It's like a ribbon. So it makes these ribbon-like shapes with your color, and it's just beautiful. But again, keep in mind, this is the underpainting that we're going to see very little of. So for those of you artists out there that have maybe ordered giclée prints, on canvas prints, you know that sometimes they come with this, it almost looks like this really aggressive seal on it, like a varnish that's like 6 coats of varnish or something. And then you try to paint on top of that, and the paint just like glides over it and doesn't really grab or get absorbed into the canvas at all. I ordered this canvas from Printful. Now, I guess if this was supposed to be a final canvas, maybe I would not have been happy with this very matte texture. But because of the kind of paint that I was going to be doing on it, it actually worked out really well. So what I'm doing here now is I'm getting the ruler out and deciding where my horizon line needs to be, like where the dock ends that she's sitting on, or the edge of the pool, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm also going to figure out where the horizon line, meets the sky. And so that's why I got the big T-square out. Because I'm about ready to start the final layer. Oy, so my camera is so far above me in order to get this entire thing on camera that I couldn't even see that I was that far off. Yeah, we're definitely going to have to figure out how to do this better. Again, I'm using the color shaper, and I'm using this 2 different shades of this sort of, I think it was blue-green that I mixed with white, but I have one that's got very little white in it and one that has a lot more white. And then I'm also using white. And that's giving me this beautiful, whether it's Caribbean blue water or a swimming pool. Okay, now you'll see that those are 2 different shades plus white. And I'm just going to kind of swirl them around a little bit. And I'm going to do a couple of layers. Like right now, we're seeing that Payne's Gray really strong. But as I keep adding more layers, maybe a little bit more white, it gets covered. A lot of it gets covered up, but some of it shows through. And occasionally I pull out the shop towel to just sort of absorb some of it. So when you do use a color shaper, it sometimes leaves a ridge of paint that's a little thicker. So I kind of blot that a little bit just to, especially over the Frisket, it's going to take forever to dry. So that's why I'm using the shop towels. Okay, so I am using Golden's titanium white. And I love how, you know, we can see through it, but we're also getting that sort of edge from the color shaper. So you can see what I'm talking about by layers at this point. And I'm also going to use a little bit of, like, you might see a touch of the Payne's Gray that I used just under her armpit, and also below that on the edge of the horizon. And that's that yellow green again. It's a beautiful color. Okay, so I started the blue sky, and again, I'm so off the edge. Ugh, I should be better at this by now. I did figure out how to get it up on the easel. So once I get this up on the easel, I think you'll have a much better perspective. So I might just like skip through some of this and take you over there in a second. Yes, I'm going to rough in this blue, and then I'm going to move over to an easel for sure. Because even I am having a hard time seeing it from this perspective. When I'm used to working on an easel, but you know, my old style used to be that I would have painted the background sort of like a flower or something like that, or pool water, but I would have done it more realistically. And this was a new idea that I've been playing with, and I'm kind of liking, kind of liking how it's going along. But I'm learning how you know, the positions that I need to be in when I'm working. So that I'm working on the dock right now, and every once in a while I lift it because I'm also painting the edges of the canvas, in case you're wondering. And I'm letting some of those colors show through, especially on the bottom part where the dock is. I want those reds to show through, that gray. And the gray is also a Nova color. I will put all these colors down below in the description, but they make a beautiful neutral gray, like a nice warm neutral gray paint that I love. Okay, so here we are over on the easel, and it's still looking like, oh, what a mess, you know, because it's all over the frisket, and I cannot wait till we get to peel that off. But the sky needs a lot of work. It needs a lot more white in it, and but as I'm seeing it from this perspective now, I'm realizing what it needs. And I'm continuing to just use the color shaper because I'm thinking it's probably the best solution. But I'm going to keep adding some more white in here, kind of like reflections. You know, maybe some waves or something. I don't know. It's my abstract interpretation of the ocean, maybe. Maybe she's sitting on the edge of a dock and not a pool. So sometimes you have to keep going back and forth, you know, put in something darker, put something lighter on top of it, you know, and just build up those layers. But I'm also being careful not to cover all of the red. I want a little bit of it to peek through. And the Indian yellow. Okay, so this was the side that was towards the the back side of my table, so I didn't get anything on the side. So I'm gonna, while I have these colors out, I'm gonna mix them a little bit over here. I've really missed painting because I've been doing, a lot of gel printing and those types of collage, and I just really enjoyed this whole process. And in the next video, I'm going to be working on her hat, and that was also a really fun process. So I think over here I'm overlaying, I don't think that's the same gray. I think this might be a little bit of tight and buff mixed in with it. And again, I'm still being careful to leave some of that blue showing and the red and the yellow, that Indian yellow a little bit. Okay, so now it's time to work on this sky, which needs a lot of work. It needs a lot more light colors. So on my palette, which you cannot see, it's another thing I guess I gotta fix. I have both, I have this darker blue, I have a medium blue, and I have white. And I'm going to probably, mix a lot of it right here on the canvas. Use the color shaper to make those ribbons, like I said. And in that upper right-hand corner, I really need to knock back that Payne's Gray. It's really a little overpowering up there. So it's helpful sometimes if you have more than one color on your color shaper. You get some interesting effects. Kind of blends them together while you're going. And I also sometimes use my shop towel to blend things. So I like working in different areas. I don't just like stick with a corner, like work your way around. While I have a color on the shaper, maybe I need it somewhere else. I'm going to move around a little bit more. And I'm not too neat around the hat. The hat does not have frisket, but that's okay because I'm going to be painting the hat in the next video and doing all the final touches. So the next video will be the last in this series, and she'll be all finished. And still haven't decided what I'm going to do with the hat. So, you need to come back next video and see what I've done because I haven't a clue what I'm going to do. I might collage it and I might paint it. It's still a mystery to me. Whatever I'm feeling like that day. And once again, I've got to get some paint on the side. I'm trying not to be too perfect on the side as well. Hey, let me break in here a second and let you know that I have membership now here on the channel. You can go to the link on my channel, click join, and it will give you the details. It's only $2.99. So this side I did have more red on it. I wish I had it on the other side as well. But I want some of that red to show through. Okay, so here's the moment. Did the frisket bleed? Let's see. And no, it did not. But I will tell you what did happen. So there were some areas when I was cutting with the X-Acto where I wasn't X-Acto. I really wasn't as exact as I should have been. But guess what? I absolutely love it even better. So you can't see it yet, but I will try to zoom in later and show you exactly what I'm talking about. There'd be like a little bit of an outline of red that we see from underneath. I think the first layer, the red layer, did bleed a little bit. You could see it right there on that shoulder. Maybe not, I'm not so sure, but let me try to zoom in. It's very faint, but you'll see this tiny little bit of red. And it also happened in other places, which I will, at the end, I will zoom in better and really show you what I'm talking about, just like little thin red lines. So like I mentioned in the next video, I'm going to work on her hat, which might also make it necessary for me to work on the sky a little bit. I want to always play with contrast and make sure that that I've got enough contrast in certain areas. Down at the bottom where the gray is, I'm going to be adding the shadows. So right now her hips are kind of blending in. If you squint, you'll see they're just kind of like the same tonal value. But after I add those shadows, I think it'll be much better. So the shadow of her arm is going to reflect right where I was pointing just there. And I'm going to use papers for that. So that's going to be done with collage. Also, in the lower left-hand corner where the gray is, I'm going to be adding the quote so that it can be read what is in this digital part. Normally, I don't do that, but since this is collage and mixed media, I'm gonna do that here. So I'm gonna be adding in shadows, the hat, and also the text in the next video. Okay, let me see if I could zoom in and show you those little red areas, just the ones that went around like her arm. Like you'll see that one spot right there next to her arm where the shadow is. You'll see a little bit of red. And also, just like in the crook of her elbow, just below, see that little bit of red that's peeking through? I actually like that. And here's some more down here around her hip. So I guess the red did bleed ever so slightly in some areas, but I actually like it. So that's it for today. In the next video, I will show you how I finish this off. The hat will get a treatment. I'm not going to give that away just yet. And then we're going to add some shadows and some type to the area that she's sitting on. And that will help, pull this all together. So I hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to create, inspire, and share. See you next time. Bye-bye.